Hare Krishna. Good morning from Canada. It is Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu and our members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association globally, and in your particular areas locally. So these classes have been started with the reading from the original diaries of Srila Prabhupada back in 1965-66, when he arrived in America to begin his preaching mission, which is advanced now to the year 2023, and by the grace of Krishna, we are actively engaged in propagating his message to others with the hope that they take up the spiritual process and begin their march back home, back to Godhead, which is the goal of human life. Human life is a privilege. Out of all the different species of life, the human life is the most valuable. Sometimes we can't see that because of our own inadequacies, but at the same time, this is the truth of the matter. And Prabhupada came from India to give us the proper instructions and discipline, how to develop our consciousness to the level of love of Godhead. This is, of course, by the mercy of his Guru and of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is truly a gift from the transcendental world to all of us who are struggling in this material world with birth, death, disease, and old age, and all kinds of tribulations that come unwanted, and many times, in many cases, it's not a wanted thing, but things come of their own accord. And this is the preparation to deal with all the difficulties of life. Now, we're reading from the diaries, and Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu, do you have the diary that shows the, how can I say, the incorporation papers that Prabhupada first initiated back in 66 in July? Do you have them by chance to put on the screen? Otherwise, I'll photograph it here. 1 second, everyone. Just have to find Vinkat.
I don't have those.
Okay. Well, here, I'll send them to you right now. Excuse me, everyone. Here we go. Let's see if we can get a good photo of this. There. So what we'll do, I found this incorporation paper very enlightening for all of us, so that we can see goals and objectives that Prabhupada had in his mind and he wanted to share with all of us. So here we'll go. We'll start with, we'll just read the one page. And I think Vinkat has it there. Yeah, there we go. So, Certificate of Incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc., pursuant to the Religious Corporation Law of the State of New York. We, the undersigned, for the purpose of forming a corporation pursuant to the Religious Corporation Law of the State of New York, do hereby make subscribed and acknowledge this certificate as follows. First, the name of the corporation shall be International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc. Second, the purposes for which the corporation is organized are to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. B, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam. C, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead Krishna. D, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And E, to erect for the members and for society at large a place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. F, to bring the members closer together for this purpose of teaching a simple and more natural way of life. And G, with a view towards the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. Extraordinary depth in these purposes that Prabhupada has written for all of us. Third, the corporation shall have the power, either directly or indirectly, either alone or in conjunction or cooperation with others, to do any and all lawful acts and things, and to engage in any and all lawful activities which may be necessary, useful, suitable, desirable, or proper for the advancement, accomplishment, fostering, or attainment of any or all of the purposes for which the corporation is organized, and to aid or assist other organizations whose activities are such as to further accomplish, foster, or attain any of such purposes. So a very dynamic point of view to work with others. Notwithstanding anything herein to the contrary, the corporation shall exercise only such powers as are in the furtherance of the exempt purposes of the organization set forth in Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code and its regulations as the same now exist, or as they may be hereafter amended from time to time. So a legal term, because corporation is a means of functioning within a government. You can't operate a bank account or be active without a corporate status that Prabhupada wanted. Fourth, the corporation is not organized for profit, and no part of the net earnings of the corporation shall inure to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. In the event of the liquidation or dissolution of the corporation, whether voluntary or involuntary, no member shall be entitled to any distribution or division of its remaining property or its proceeds, and the balance of all money and other property received by the corporation from any source. I didn't send this over to Vincott. I'll just finish reading this, and then this one clause, and then we'll go to our discussion, and we'll carry on tomorrow morning, and we'll finish reading this. After the payment of all debts and obligations of the corporation shall be used or distributed subject to the order of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, as provided by law, exclusively for purposes within those set forth in Article 2nd of the certificate and within the intendment of Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 and its regulations, as the same now exist or as they may hereafter amended from time to time. So this is compliance with the local laws of the government, which Prabhupada wanted us all to follow. So we'll move forward now with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, the bhajan that Prabhupada used before the beginning of his classes. And then please chant along, by the way, all the programs. And when Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is reciting the opening verses, chant when appropriate. Be an active participant in the program. This will give us all the most benefit. And then we'll subsequently move forward with the study of the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, unadulterated, unedited version by His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namaacharya Sri Raghunath Thakur.
Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunathan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. We are reading from the original 1972 Macmillan edition, the original unedited, non-adulterated version. All transliteration, word for word, translations and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we'll be reading from chapter 9, text number 14-15. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasati. Satatam, always. Kirtayantaha, chanting. Mam, me. Yatantaha cha, fully endeavoring also. Dridavrata, with determination. Namasyantaha cha, offering obeisances. Mam, unto me. Bhaktya, in devotion. Nityayuktaha, perpetually engaged. Upasate, worship. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Purport. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmajyoti, is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad-gītā. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything, in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadasi, and on the appearance day of the Lord, etc. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result. As described in the 2nd verse of this chapter, this devotional service is not only easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder, or as sannyasi, or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Text number 15. Jnana yajnena chapyanye yajanto mam upasate ekatvena pritatvena bahudha vishvatomukam. Jnana yajnena, by cultivation of knowledge. Cha, also. Api, certainly. Anye, others. Yajantaha, worshipping. Mam, me. Upasate, worship. Ekatvena, in oneness. Pritatvena, in duality. Bahuda, diversity. Vishvataha mukham, in the universal form. Translation. Others who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, diverse in many, and in the universal form. Purport. This verse is the summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them are already described as the distressed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into three. 1. He who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord. 2. He who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that. And 3. He who accepts the universal form, the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worships that. Out of the above three, the lowest, those who worship themselves as the Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monists, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in this mentality they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand that they are not the material body, but are actually spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigods, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of this material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also a form of the Lord. Om Ajnana-timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad-vandanam khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punaha Punaham Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We see in various purports and explanation of Srila Prabhupada, he is often described the difference between a Mahatma and a Duratma. In Sanskrit, the word Mahatma is composed of two words, Maha-atma, or great soul. The opposite is called Duratma, Dura-atma, crooked soul. So the Bhagavad-gītā is very clear here, and Srila Prabhupada is very clear in explaining these symptoms of what is a Mahatma. This is not a political title or a political designation. We see in the Bhagavad-gītā, in chapter 7, text 19, Krishna explains very nicely the characteristics of what is a Mahatma. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Srila Prabhupada further explains in a purport, the living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus, he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrender great souls are very rare. So this is a very important point, because many people misunderstand the position of a Mahatma as some kind of a political position. It is not. We see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are so many descriptions of the activities of great Mahatmas, associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, these personalities who came during the manifested presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu between 1486 AD and 1534 AD, these personalities are not just some regular devotees. They are true Mahatmas. They are Nitya Siddhas. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Adi Lila, chapter 4, Srila Krishnadas Goswami Kaviraj explains that the associates of Lord Chaitanya, many of his confidential associates, took birth before he did to prepare the scene for his advent. And these personalities are all Nitya Siddhas, eternally liberated souls. Some of them are direct associates of Krishna, like Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu. And there are many, many great personalities who are Nitya Siddhas from the spiritual world who came to assist Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda in his mission. And if somebody understands the true nature of these personalities, Gaurangira Sangi Jani, there is a Vaishnava song, one of the great acharyas has sung, if one understands the position of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, Nitya Siddha Karimani, then one will become liberated. But it is not so easy. On one hand, it is very easy. On the other hand, it is not easy. How so? One has to become intelligent. One has to develop spiritual intelligence. Or somebody may say, oh, so-and-so is very, very learned, very educated. He has MA, master's degree, PhD, very academically knowledgeable. He may know Sanskrit. He may know so many languages. He may have studied this, studied that. Well, that is very nice. But when we are speaking a highly intelligent, we are speaking of what is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangha Upanga Parshadam Yagne Samkirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. Shukadev Goswami has used the term Sumedasaha, means very intelligent. The Bhagavatam has two descriptions. One is Sumedasaha, very intelligent or highly intelligent, and Alpamedasaha, or less intelligent. We see in the descriptions in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Sutta Goswami is explaining to the sages of Naimisharanya the conditions of Kali Yuga, he describes people in this age as Alpamedasaha. Means, and generally people are spiritually very less intelligent. Very less intelligent. And we have seen this. We have experienced this in so many ways during our preaching activities. Because of engagement in so many sinful activities, the intelligence becomes very dull. Very, very dull. So one has to develop spiritual intelligence. What is that intelligence? Just like Prabhupada is describing in this text, to understand what is a Mahatma and to develop the qualities of a Mahatma. So the next question that may come up, well, how do we do that? That is how one has to accept the shelter and the instruction of a bona fide, authorized spiritual master, of a bona fide Mahatma. This is the instruction in all the scriptures. Srila Prabhupada several times quoted a verse from the Padma Purana where Lord Krishna is telling Narada Muni, Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridaye shubha. I do not reside in Vaikuntha or in the heart of the yogis. Well, if he doesn't reside there, where does he reside? Tatratishtami Narada yatra gayanti mat bhaktaha. My dear Narada, I reside where my pure devotees, my Mahatmas, are chanting my name, my glories. Srila Prabhupada was explaining in a lecture that many people will say, oh, God is great, God is great. Now the next question is, how great is God? What are his activities? What are his names? What are his pastimes? What is the description of the form of God? What is the description of the abode or the kingdom of God? These descriptions are all there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Also we see in the Brahma Samhita, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited South India, in Kerala, he came to a temple, a Keshava temple, where he discovered the text of the Brahma Samhita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranged to make a copy of the Brahma Samhita and bring this copy back to Jagannath Puri. He also made a copy of a book called the Krishna Karnamrita. Very important books in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. This particular book, Brahma Samhita, was received by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Jiva Goswami, the great acharya of our sampradaya, made a commentary on it. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also commented upon the Brahma Samhita and published the commentary of Jiva Goswami. And Srila Prabhupada many times throughout his lectures would quote verses from the Brahma Samhita. I've told this story before. When we first went to Bangalore in 1972, we were living in Gandhinagar. And one gentleman came to visit us, and he said, there's a very rich man. He would like to let you use his house, one house, so you can live there. And he provided all kinds of cooking utensils. He sent all kinds of produce and all kinds of supply. So we looked upon it as Krishna's arrangement. So one day we heard a knock on the door, and some Pandit came there. Some Sanskrit Pandit had come there, and Guru Kripa Swami and myself, we had a discussion with this Pandit. And this person was not a Mahatma. He was a Duratma, trying to find fault with Krishna. Of course, Guru Kripa Swami very quickly took him to task and defeated his arguments very nicely. His major point was Krishna told Maharaj Yudhishthira to lie in the Mahabharata. Krishna was dancing with the gopis. Krishna did this. Krishna. It's like a modern-day Shishupal type person. So Guru Kripa actually defeated him nicely. So when we saw Prabhupada in Vrindavan, later in 1972, we brought up to Srila Prabhupada this incident of what took place with this so-called Pandit. And Prabhupada listened, and he said, what you should do if somebody brings up these kinds of arguments, you should tell them that you cannot understand the activities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, unless you understand who is Krishna, who is that personality. So you tell him three things. Number one, you quote him from the Brahma Samhita. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. You explain like that. And then he says, you quote him from Bhagavad-gītā. Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. There is no truth superior to me. And again, you quote him from Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 10, text number 10. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. That I am the source of everything material and spiritual. So you explain like that. Because unless they understand the person Krishna, it is not possible to understand the activities of Krishna. And Prabhupada said, you understand? He said, yes, Prabhupada. So that is a very good starting point for any devotee who is trying to preach. These three verses, Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 7, text 7, chapter 10, text 8, and the first verse of the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. Very important. Prabhupada was the empowered representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ambassador of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was predicted. Prabhupada was predicted by great acharyas like Lochan Das Thakur, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Krishna Das Kaviraj, in their various literatures. They predict that a great personality would come and bring the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu everywhere. So this is Srila Prabhupada, the unique personality, because he's giving everybody the chance to become a Mahatma, whether it is a man, a woman, intelligent, less intelligent, whether one is born in America, India, Russia, Poland, Nigeria, it doesn't matter where a person is born, whether one is black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. Everyone, just like in this purport, Prabhupada is explaining the person can do this anywhere in the world. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually a Mahatma or a great soul. Prabhupada was quite amazing because the way that he presented the process of devotional service was very simple. He adjusted things according to time, place, and circumstance. Prabhupada was very powerful, although many times he acted just like a madhyamadikari or a second-class devotee. We should never be under the illusion that he was a devotee like us. Srila Prabhupada was once asked in Calcutta that the spiritual master, when he closes his eyes, what does he see? And Prabhupada rebuked the inquiry, says, that you do not need to ask. And the devotee asked, well, the pure devotee, when he closes his eyes, what does he see? And Prabhupada, the pure devotee, when he closes his eyes, he sees the pastimes of Radha and Krishna manifested in his heart 24 hours a day. That is a very exalted position. That is a very special position. Every day we sing during Mangalarti this song of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Guru Vastakam. And everyone is familiar in text number 5, how it is described, Nikunjayuno Rati Keli Siddhyaer. That the spiritual master is very expert in assisting the pastimes of Radha Krishna, the pastimes of the gopis. So this is not something to be imitated. This is not some mental gymnastics of somebody who's going to jump on a trampoline thinking, oh, now I've become liberated. I'm an assistant to the gopis. No. This is a gradual process of purification and realization. And we have seen what happens when Sahaja imitators impudently try to imitate the pure devotee. Instead of being Mahatma, they become Duratma. Instead of behaving like saintly person, they end up behaving like a crooked person.
डैमेज कर लिया
मिल गया
डैमेज कर लिया
Somebody is speaking or?
I muted them.
So this is a very important point for devotees to learn to differentiate between a pure devotee and a neophyte devotee, between a Duratma and a Mahatma. One devotee recently was trying to argue with me, oh, a middle-class devotee can be a guru. I said, yeah, you can squeeze out whatever interpretation you want from wherever you want, but you should also take into consideration many other statements from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In 1972, in one lecture in Gujarat and Ahmedabad, Srila Prabhupada was describing the position of the 3 different classes of devotees, the Kanishtadikari, the Madhyamadikari, the middle-class devotee, and the Uttamadikari, the topmost devotee. And while Prabhupada was describing this Madhyamadikari class, he said, the Madhyamadikari has to be very careful not to associate with the demons, because the danger is he may again become a demon, unquote. So those people who propose this idea that somebody who's not yet an Uttamadikari can take that position of getting worship as good as Krishna, this is a very dangerous position. When we carefully and analytically study Srila Prabhupada's books, not just this cherry picking for convenience. Oh, here's a quote here, here's a quote there, here's a statement by Prabhupada here, here's a statement by Prabhupada there with some political agenda. We don't need people's political interpretations and personal agendas. We have to carefully go very deep into the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Very deep. Just like Prabhupada has given so many explanations in his books, whether it is Bengali, in Sanskrit, in English, or quoting some Latin, or quoting some Bengali proverbs, so many detailed explanations. We should become familiar so we do not become misled by charlatans and pretenders who mislead others with political motives. We are all familiar with the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Srila Prabhupada describes how a Kali Chela, who is one who is simply interested in earning money in the dress of a Vaishnava. Vaishnavism is not meant for personal sense gratification, for distortion of the teachings. We see in the life of Bhaktivedanta Thakur how he waged a very big campaign to reestablish Gaudiya Vaishnavism, to reestablish the pure teachings of our Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and expose various apasampradayas, nonsensical ideas, deviated ideas. Because sometimes people say, oh, you people, you Vishwakarma and Yasoda and all these others on the call, you're trying to find fault with other devotees. No. We're not trying to be fault finders. We're not fault finding. We are fact findings, analyzing the facts of what took place and what has taken place to ascertain the correct path of understanding Prabhupada's teachings and practicing. I was explaining yesterday to one devotee how even during the manifested presence of Srila Prabhupada, several times we have experienced this. I know Vishwakarma Prabhu and myself, that when the kirtan in Mayapur and other places was not being conducted properly, Prabhupada would sometimes send his personal servant or his secretary to stop the kirtan. Even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada gave very specific instruction how the kirtan should be conducted. The Panchatattva Mahamantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. During Prabhupada's presence several times, we would chant Hari Bol a few times, Jai Prabhupada. But even that, Prabhupada many times did not find that necessary. There's one conversation where Prabhupada was discussing the activities of a guru in India who used to recruit followers to sing his name. Prabhupada says, I don't tell my disciples to chant Bhaktivedanta, Bhaktivedanta. Of course, we did it out of affection for Srila Prabhupada, out of love for Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada never told his devotees that you just chant my name. Prabhupada said you should worship Krishna in the way that the acharyas have conducted. But nowadays we see so many departures, so many deviations from Srila Prabhupada's instruction, especially with this issue of properly conducting kirtan. There are many other issues, but we see so many people who claim to be followers of Prabhupada and authorities and spiritual masters who encourage all kinds of nonsense. We should follow the path given by Prabhupada. Disciples are familiar with Prabhupada's statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that some Sahajas in Vrindavan, they invented this song, Bhajanita Goradeshyam Hare Krishna Hare Ram. Prabhupada in one place says it may be nice poetry. It does have the name of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, but this is not authorized by the acharyas. There is a systematic way that Prabhupada introduced Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada was concerned that after his departures, people would not follow things properly. So we have to be very, very careful how we conduct kirtan, how we conduct ourselves, how we associate with the spiritual master, how we read the books. There are very good reasons why Prabhupada was very concerned In October of 1977, I was in Vrindavan in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada had requested that the bell in the temple should ring every hour, exactly 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So the bell was a little late by a few minutes. And Prabhupada explains that I am concerned that the aims and ideals of this institution may become dismantled. I am thinking from that vision, unquote. Prabhupada was concerned because after so much effort, so much endeavor to establish his society, Prabhupada saw what happened to his Guru Maharaj's society, to his Guru Maharaj's mission that was compromised by ambitious, self-motivated people. And he gave plenty of warnings in his conversations, in his letters, in his books. And it's up to us, disciples of Prabhupada, followers of Prabhupada, students of Srila Prabhupada, to follow his instructions to the best of his ability and not concoct bogus ideas or bogus mantras like what we are seeing. Very important point. Not because I say it, because Prabhupada says it. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much. So much information here for all of us. And it's really a great honor to be able to hear these wonderful stories from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, recounting the amazing life that Srila Prabhupada exhibited before all of us. He was a very public person, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu knows quite well, and was quite liberated in all his activities because everything was being performed only for the sake of the pleasure of his spiritual master and Krishna. And that we saw every time we went to Mayapur Dham, how public Prabhupada truly was. And he worked while he was with us, spreading Krishna consciousness. He worked at a very high level of achievement. His greatest achievement was his service to humanity of delivering knowledge to us, transcendental knowledge, through his books, his letters, his bhajans, his lectures, and his example. It says in the Bhagavad-gītā, whatever great men do, common men will follow. Yad yad acharyati shreshtas, tat tad eva taro jana. And whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So Prabhupada, he was not only a great speaker and a great executor of activity, but he was actually practicing himself. So we'll go to text 21 in chapter 3 of the Gita quickly. Whatever action is performed by great men, common men will follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So he's trying to teach us how to duplicate his activity. Prabhupada used the term follow in the footsteps. Follow in the footsteps of the spiritual master. That means do not change what I'm doing. Just follow along. It's very simple. Purport. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya and, that a teacher should behave properly even before he begins teaching. One who teaches in this way is called acharya, or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra scripture to reach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teachings should be based on the principles of the standard rules as they are practiced by great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. So here he is trying to teach us through these purports how to live, how to become. And there is a saying, and we all know this, that actions speak louder than words. Just before we go to that, I wanted to flip back, Vinkat, to the text 14 in the purport. The description of the Mahatma down in the middle of the page there, the Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. That is devotion. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, and remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination on to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages, and here's the key, everyone, and this is what we have to aspire for. All activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. Now we're reading about Prabhupada's life, and we're seeing how he was advancing the Sankirtan movement, and he was doing it with full engagement in his strict schedule. Prabhupada had a very strict schedule and a proper use of time. So just quickly here, there's a saying, as I mentioned, that we all know that actions speak louder than words. This is common even in the material world. I've been noticing in the news, there's this soccer player, Lionel Messi, I believe his name is. He's some fellow from South America, and we're honored worldwide by the sports enthusiasts. Now, the one unique quality that he possesses, he very rarely speaks. He very rarely speaks. And yet, people honor him. He's even making $1 billion for playing soccer. But he does not speak. But his actions speak for him. So Prabhupada, he exemplified the actions of a pure devotee. It is very important for us to study his life and his actions and achievements. Never. I'm always seeking association of great people. in different fields, whether it be music. I mentioned yesterday at my talk that I had a chance when I was younger to meet Jimi Hendrix. Oh, gee, wow. Before I became a devotee. And for those who know pop culture, he's considered to be one of the greatest guitar players for modern music. He changed the way people looked at the electric guitar. But how does he stand before Srila Prabhupada? Insignificant. Very, very insignificant. Just another living entity striving for material success. So Prabhupada set the highest example. And this is how to distinguish between an actual bona fide spiritual master and one who is posing as a bona fide spiritual leader. And so the Bhagavad-gītā gives us the insight here on what is this quality of a great person. And like I said, when you study the life of Srila Prabhupada and you try to emulate it, then you'll realize that you're on the correct path by following in his footsteps back home, back to Godhead. So Yaśodā-nanda, if you could further elaborate, please.
Well, there's very important points that are being discussed here, because we know for a fact that there are many things that have taken place since 1977 which are not in line with Srila Prabhupada's teachings or instructions or directives, whether it's with the management of his society, the philosophy, the book changing, the treatment of women, children, devotees. There's a long laundry list of concerns, to put it tactfully, about what has taken place. And the problem that we see is that the solutions that are often proposed is just another way of sweeping things under the rug. In other words, it's really not addressing the issue in full. That's why we have to go very deep in Prabhupada's teachings and discuss amongst ourselves how to understand Prabhupada's teachings and instruction. I'm going to read a few paragraphs from a lecture that Prabhupada gave in 1966, on November 27th, 1966 in New York. This is a Bhagavad-gita class on chapter 9, text 11 to 14. Srila Prabhupada, Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajanantu mama bhuta maheshwaram. Bhagavad-gita 9:11. So Lord Krishna says that the mudha means the foolish, just like animals are less than animal. An ass is called mudha. So avajanti means deride at me. That any person who does not believe in God, he must be either a madman or foolish man, number one. Any person who does not believe in God, there is no reason that we cannot believe in God. There is every reason. So suppose if you are saying that I don't believe in God, but who has given you this power to say that I don't believe in God? You are speaking, I don't believe in God. But as soon as there is something you cannot speak, everything stops. So who has given you this speaking power that you dare to say, I don't believe in God? Will you not think that how am I speaking? Who has given me the power? Do you mean to say that this speaking power has come automatically from the stone? This body is just like as good as stone. As soon as the speaking power is withdrawn by the supreme authority, you're as good as stone, this body. What is the meaning of this body? So who is giving you the speaking power that you are denying that I don't believe in God? Therefore, an atheist or unbeliever, he must be a first-class foolish man. There is no other reason that one can deny the existence of God. It is very simple reasoning. But who has given you the power to talk? And who, if he withdraws the power from you, then what is your value? How can you boastfully say that I don't believe in God? This very power of speaking is the proof that there is the greatest authority who gives you everything. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person, he knows that everything, whatever I've got, it is not mine. It is under my control. The controller is different. I am feeling. I am simply using it. I am talking. This is my hand. I am working. But if the power of working is immediately withdrawn, it is paralyzed. Have you got any power to revive this working power of this hand? No, you have not. One hand will work. Another hand will stop. Who stops? These things are to be thought. How can I deny? There is something. If I don't believe in God, but I must believe some power beyond me, which is controlling me every step. Either call it God or anything, nature, but there is a controlling power. You have to admit. How can you deny it? Therefore, anyone who denies the existence of God is foolish man. He is not very intelligent man. No intelligent man will deny. So Krishna says, avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam. Bhagavad-gītā 9:11. Krishna is saying here, because he was present on this earth just like a human being with some supernatural power. But mostly 99% of people, they could not recognize him. Could not recognize him that he's the supreme power, supreme personality of Godhead, parambhavam ajanantaha, because they have no eyes to see. There are. How can we recognize God? Some supernatural power, evidence of authorities, scriptural evidence. These things are required. So far Krishna is concerned, every authority has accepted him as God. And when he was present, his activities were superhuman. And from the evidence of Vedic literature, he is God. Then in spite of all these evidences, if you don't believe him, then it must be considered asuram bhavam, that I shall not believe whatever evidence you give, and whatever I mean to say, activities you may show, I'll never believe you are God. Finished. Then that is helpless. So avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam, Bhagavad-gītā 9:11. Besides that, one must have the eyes to see God also. God cannot be seen with our imperfect senses. So the whole bhakti process, bhakti yoga, is the process of purifying the senses to understand what is God, what is spirit, what is soul. It requires sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. Chaitanya Charitanam Madhya 19:170. Anukulyena Krishna Nushilanam Bhaktiruttama. Madhya Lila 19:167. And in the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. Madhya Lila 19:170. Simply, this bhakti yoga is the process of purifying. As soon as you purify your power of seeing, power of hearing, power of tasting, power of touching, all these, we've got our senses to taste, to acquire knowledge. But if the senses are blunt, then we cannot understand what is God. But therefore, you require regulative principles to understand what is God. That regulative principles must be undertaken. And the easiest regulative principle is this chanting of Hare Krishna. If you regularly chant with devotion, without any offense, then this very simple process will help you to purify your senses, and you will appreciate presence of God. In God consciousness, Krishna consciousness will develop in you. So parambhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Bhagavad-gītā 9:11. People, they do not know what is the inconceivable power and potencies of God. Therefore, they think God might be somebody like me. They cannot understand God. Mogasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasaha rakshashim mashurim cheva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Bhagavad-gītā 9:12. So why they cannot understand Mogasha? Mogasha means whatever they're aspiring, whatever they're desiring, they will be baffled. Mogasha. Just like the karmi. Karmi means the fruitive actor. They're always hoping something better, something better, something better. There is no limit where they will stop. So much money, so much bank balance, so much money, so much still. So Mogasha. Moga means they are hoping to be very happy at a certain point. But that point never comes. That point never comes. Mogasha. This means Mogasha, because he does not know what is the ultimate point of my satiation. Nati bituhu svartagatim hi vishnum durasaya bahirarta maninaha. Bhagavatam 7:5-31. People, they do not know, who are, enamored by the external beauty of this illusory material energy. They cannot understand that what is the aim and objective of life. They cannot understand. Therefore, Mogasha. So in this way, Prabhupada is describing so many, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is describing Mahatma Gandhi. He was a great worker for national emancipation. You have heard his name. But at the end, he was so much disgusted that I have seen personally, wherever he used to go, he used to plug his ears like this. Why? Now, wherever he would go, thousands of people would gather and cry, Mahatma Gandhi ki jai. So the poor fellow could not sleep even. The person, as soon as there's some sense that Mahatma Gandhi is coming here, at least 5,000 people will gather and will cry, Mahatma Gandhi ki jai. So at the last stage of his life, he could not sleep due to this crying. Just see. And he was so much disgusted the very morning when he was, assassinated. He was killed by bullet shot. He said to his secretary, I'm so disgusted I wish to die. You see, this very word was published in the paper. Now see, such a big worker, such simply a worker, but still he felt baffled. And what to speak of others? So moga karmanaha, unless we become Krishna conscious, then all our activities will be baffled at the end. Take it, what Krishna is saying, not ordinary person like me. Krishna is Mogasha Moga Karmano Moga Jnanaha. Bhagavad-gītā 9:12. Moga Jnanaha. Jnana means research of knowledge, philosophical speculation. Hare Krishna.
So this is the art of living that Prabhupada demonstrated for us to open our vision, transcendental vision, of how to properly utilize our time to go back home, back to Godhead. And we can see with these readings that he gives us this inspiration every day to get up and practice carefully this process of devotional service under his guidance and direction. And there's ample information. I know that our godbrother, I believe he's on the call, Jonas Priya, in Hawaii. It's a difficult time for him because of the difference in time zones, but at the same time, we're glad he's with us. Maybe he can share some insights into Prabhupada's position as Mahatma, a truly great liberated soul. Jonas Priya, please.
Sorry. Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, we do, loud and clear.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. First, I'd like to be grateful for the association of all the devotees of the Lord, especially you, Prabhu. You really are an inspiration to me and to a lot of people, and we appreciate this. Please keep it up. We're so fortunate beyond belief. Even I couldn't even imagine how fortunate we are that that we have Srila Prabhupada as our as our guru, because Srila Prabhupada is, I was going to say 1 in a trillion, quadrillion, but there's no number. Prabhupada is just, why? Because he was an acharya. What does it mean to be an acharya? It means to show by example. So when Prabhupada first came, and when they had the first temple, Prabhupada never told anybody, you have to shave your head, you have to chant 16 rounds, you have to follow the 4 principles. But he was doing that. So everybody was seeing his behavior. And so Kirtanananda was the first one to ask, could I shave my head like you? And Prabhupada said, yes, if you like, you can. The next question he asked, could I put a dhoti like you? And Prabhupada gave the same answer. So this was Prabhupada's example. Prabhupada was so humble, so humble. I don't know what temple it was, but it was in the very beginning. And there was one shower, and the devotees used to line up to get into the shower. And Srila Prabhupada, did he cut to the front of the line? No. Srila Prabhupada got in line with the devotees to take a shower and waited for his turn. And one funny thing that he used to do when he was in the line, one time, he was playing mridanga on his belly while he's waiting in line, and he did that sound, whoop, and the devotees, they were used to see him play, but he did the whoop, and the devotees go, whoa, Srila Prabhupada. But Swamiji at the time, how do you do that? And Prabhupada smiled and says, a lot of practice. So this is our Srila Prabhupada. Not only do we get one of Krishna's closest associates, and Prabhupada explained many a time that if you wanna, he gave the example of President Nixon. He says, if you wanna go and talk to President Nixon, is that easy? He said, no. Why? Because he's a special person. He's very busy. He said, in the same way, if we want to get to Krishna, what do we need to do? We need to find one of Krishna's personal friends. So if you want to get too close to Nixon, what do? You find one of his very buddies, once he hangs out with, whatever, and very easily he could introduce you. So that was our Srila, that is our Srila Prabhupada. He is in the in crowd with Krishna. There's no doubt. Why? Who could do in 11 years, who could establish a worldwide confederation worth billions of dollars with hundreds of thousands of people, regardless of the mismanagement? The Prabhupada's mercy is still there. There's buildings where Srila Prabhupada is, and if you go into those buildings, you could feel Prabhupada's presence. It's depending where your antennas are pointing. If our antennas are pointing at fault finding, then they'll find the fault. If our antennas are pointing to where's Srila Prabhupada's mercy, then we will find that. At the Honolulu temple, Prabhupada had a garden, and he used to go and sit down and chant japa in there. And being nonsense, I went in that garden and I hugged a tree. And amazingly enough, I start feeling some special thing I never felt. And I go, no, this is... So I went and I hugged another tree. And the same thing happened. So we have no idea, at least I personally have no idea who Srila Prabhupada is and what's the extent of his mercy. So by the association of the devotees and by keep on keeping, even if we fall down, we all have a past, everybody, especially me. I'm a rascal, I'm a rat, I'm a pretender. But we also have a future, and our future is Srila Prabhupada and sanghas like this, where we could come and discuss and ask questions and nobody's going to cheat us. Srila Prabhupada never cheated one person. Never. Never. Why? Because he didn't need to. What did Prabhupada needed? Prabhupada needed, I asked one question to Srila Prabhupada. I said, Srila Prabhupada, 1975 in Atlanta, how could we please you the most? There's 100 Radha Damodar book distributors, and they were almost jumping up and down because they're going to say, like this, Prabhupada's going to say about distributing my books. And so Prabhupada said, I asked Prabhupada, how could we please you the most, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, by loving Krishna. So that's the ultimate goal. If we could love, how could we love Krishna? By how closely we follow the instructions of our spiritual master. If we follow Prabhupada's instructions as close as we are allowed due to our contamination and whatever our anarthas, but if we are giving our best shot, then if we could make Prabhupada smile, then that's the perfection of our life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Excellent explanation of our philosophy for all our members here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. And we are focused on the lotus feet of our spiritual master. I had the opportunity in New Vrindavan, Yaśodā Prabhu. I was there when Prabhupada came for a visit, and we came up from our Sankirtan bus. We were all packed in the temple room. I was just up by the Radha Vrindavan Chandra deities. And Prabhupada came in to the room, and he went up to the front of the altar and bowed down to pay his obeisances. And I just shaved my head. And I bowed down. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just crammed in with everybody. And all of a sudden, I felt these feet on my head. I thought, who is this person that's got their feet on my head? And then when everybody rose, I saw it was Prabhupada in front of me, and both his feet landed on my head. So this, of course, is the mercy of the spiritual master to have his feet on your head. And I wanted to further clarify, I had the honor of working in Montreal on Park Avenue. I think Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu that was there. And there was only one washroom by the kitchen. And that was the washroom that everybody stood in line and waited their turn to get in, men, women. And in the particular pastime that you mentioned, Prabhu, it was Srila Prabhupada stood in that line and waited his turn to get into that little washroom, which was part of the what was originally a bowling alley where we had our temple. 3720 Park Avenue in Montreal. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We've reached the end of our discussion, and I wanted our Prabhu, Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu, please, if you could put up the image of the Vyas Puja offering. We are asking everyone in this call, Zoom, and those who do watch on Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube channel to please submit an offering for the Prabhupada Vyas Puja celebration on September 8th this year, the Mayapur calendar. Sri Vyas Puja, submit your offering to www.harekrishnasociety.org, and we hope that you can fit it in by August 31st, 2023. And all the offerings will be printed in the upcoming Vyas Puja book. So please make an effort. We'll try to accommodate you if you're late by a day or two. I don't want to upset our group, our organizers, but we will do the best to fit you in, but try to write something, as Yaśodā Prabhu has told us. Even if you write even a Hare Krishna or a simple statement, that's sufficient. Just make an effort so that we can include you in this book, which will also have many articles at the front explaining about the position of a bona fide spiritual master and why we're worshiping Prabhupada the way that we do. And I also wanted to remind everybody that in Sacramento, on the 7th and 8th, there'll be the Janmashtami ceremony. And Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu will be the special guest speaker at both events on the 7th and the 8th in California. So if you're in that area or want to come, please get a hold of us and we'll try to make an arrangement to accommodate you there with the local leader, Bhaktivedanta Singh. So thank you everyone for your participation in today's Bhagavad-gītā class, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Canada and the US for our weekly study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And every class is just filled with information to inspire you to continue on with your process of devotional service and the chanting of your 16 rounds. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're going to move forward with the Kirtan section of our program. Please enjoy the photos and the chant.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
I'm just
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Apakita Prabhu, comment ça va, mon ami?
Ça va bien, et toi?
Ça va